Alrighty, it's that time again. Yes, yes, yes. And today, boom, we're talking about Creality print upgrade. Horrible prints on the K2 Plus. Brought to you by Creality. Wow. Yeah, I wasn't expecting that this morning. Ended up doing some prints and doing some models and, some test pieces on the K2 Plus, and it popped up. It says, hey, got a new Creality print firmware upgrade thing for the online, the program, the slicer that they use. And it's like, oh, okay, it's supposed to be, fix a number of things. And so I went ahead and did this. Yeah, it was horrible. I had the worst prints I have ever had on the K2 Plus, and we're going to make a video about it. Hi, I'm Steve, the retired hobby tech guy, and rocking some vanilla latte, and we're going to show you what happened to the print. And yeah, I don't know what happened. I've been really happy with the K2 Plus. It ends up, it's a great machine. I know there's a bunch of problems that people had in the beginning. Like a lot of companies, they have to do the firmware upgrades. And as I've said in previous videos, I think part of the problem that people were having is because the thing is so darn heavy. It's over 100 pounds, and when that thing is delivered with FedEx or DHL or whatever it is, delivery drivers and personnel don't do their best to handle 100 pounds in a huge box, and so it ends up getting rolled off the truck. It gets thrown around. I used to work at FedEx, and you ended up seeing stuff, heavy packages and heavy, big, unwieldy boxes being, tipped over, rolled, thrown off of platforms and trucks, the whole 9 yards. It's just not, so I can totally understand why there was a lot of problems with the K2 Plus initially. And then you got to admit, Creality did have some problems in the past with, doing the right things, and we won't get into that, but they seem to have turned that around with the K2 Plus. So I took a gamble and I got the K2 Plus, but I did this Creality print upgrade and I was disappointed. So we're just going to jump right into this. So here it is. Basically, I upgraded the Creality print to version 6.2.2.3203. That'll keep you busy. Made a part in Tinkercad, exported it and printed it out. It was the worst print I have ever had. Printed out a Benchy to see if the previous model was a bad or a corrupted print. In other words, maybe it was a bad file that it got exported, and that's the reason for the horrendous condition of the print on the K2 Plus. But even the Benchy sucked. The Benchy was the one that's included on the machine, so it was kind of like, yeah, we'll take a look at that. Prior to this, my prints were great. If we take a look at a number of prints that I ended up doing, kind of like my cell phone, teleprompter, we can see we've got some great fit and finish on here. Just pretty amazing stuff. No problems whatsoever. But when we updated to this new Creality print software, yeah, it didn't do well. And I put this out on Reddit. Hadn't had anybody complain yet about this upgrade, and I'm wondering, I can't be the only one. I mean, I'm working off of a Mac, and I know there's some things that, it seems like there's more of a Windows has the upper hand when it comes to this, when it comes to Creality. The Mac are kind of lagging behind on that. So, George pops in, says, howdy, how you doing? Good to go. We're talking about the Creality K2 Plus and the print firmware upgrade for the software, the slicer package, and how I got the worst print ever. And again, originally I thought, well, maybe Tinkercad, when I exported it, the file was corrupted, and I thought maybe that's it. So I'll just do a quick Benchy. The Benchy that was included on the machine, and yeah, that turned out the worst Benchy I've ever had. Even worse than prior to calibrating the filament. Yeah, this is the worst Benchy I've ever had. So anyway, maybe I'm doing something wrong. I don't know. I redid Creality print, upgraded to that, shut everything down, did the calibration and so on and so forth, and boom, there it is. Yeah, that's pretty rough, isn't it? Yeah. George says, ironic, I'm waiting for firmware update at the moment. Updating firmware at the moment. Oh, okay. Well, if it's for the machine, you're probably okay. I haven't had problems with the actual machine firmware upgrade, but this Creality print upgrade, like I mentioned, it was the 6.2 whatever 3.3203. It was just horrendous. So anyway, this is a picture of the part that you can see over here, and that was made in Tinkercad. So yeah, let me see if I can get. Can I get that? No, I can't. Let's do a screen share. The current application. Oh, it won't do it. Dang it. Oh, because everything's in the. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, I made a model on Tinkercad and exported it and put it on here, and this is what it ended up being. It was like, look at how horrendous that is. You know, you can just see the separation, and let's make this even bigger. Look at that. That is one horrendous print. And I was like, holy crow. You know, the edges aren't even coming, meeting together on the small, thin part, towards the left. As it builds up, you see the corners, and it's just like, it's horrendous. It is the worst print I've ever had on my K2 Plus. And with that being said, I mean, it was just bad. So there's another one, another view of that on this side here. And you can see that is horrendous as well. If we take a look at that, holy crow. I mean, how is that even possible? I haven't seen a print like this pretty much ever. So let alone with Creality. And here it ends up, here is the Benchy I ran, and if we take a look at the Benchy, that is a pretty horrendous Benchy as well. That is the worst Benchy I have ever had, period. This takes first place for the worst Benchies I have ever printed. All my other Benchies have come out great, and that's even the Benchies including the ones prior to calibrating the filament, prior to doing the flow calibration and all the, the different tests that you can end up doing. It was horrible. I was like, holy crow, what is going on? So I went back to the previous version of Creality print, and what we ended up having is getting a much better print. We still got some separation between the walls and that top surface there in Creality, Creality print. Let's see if we can pull this up, but definitely a lot better. So if we take a look at this, the infill and wall overlap, usually at 30, I don't get that joining. So setting it at about 60 seems to be the nice spot for that right there. And yeah, everything else is just kind of like, good to go. 2 wall loops, 15% infill density. We'll just take that down to 5, and what we'll end up doing, we'll set it to gyroid, blah, blah, blah. We got all that. We're good to go. Let's go here, 0.2, aligned, and Arachne, and normal printing, first layer speeds, blah, blah, blah. Overhang speed, that first one is 0, but I have that set to 60, and I've had awesome prints with that. All of these settings. And then, of course, we're not going to do that. And then we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. Brim is auto. So what we'll end up doing here is we will add a Benchy. And what we'll end up doing, now that we have the Benchy on there, let's go back and we'll go to here, and let's go ahead and we'll make that white, because we did the previous ones in white, and so we're good there. And we will slice this baby up. Let's make sure we got everything. Yep, okay. Yeah, I need to set for my calibration for my Creality Hyper PLA. We'll slice this plate up and do a test benching, and we'll run this, which should take About 32 minutes. So we'll just go ahead and we'll run this. We'll just go ahead and we'll do, no, I did a calibration yesterday, so I'm not going to waste that. So we're just going to go ahead and start this, run and gun and go. So we'll see how this happens. So while this is preparing, please hit the like button on this video. Greetings, Steve. You may need to roll back the firmware. Yes, definitely roll back the firmware. That was horrendous. Again, taking a look at the print that we got off of this, and let me see. Oh, here's another picture. I mean, that is horrendous. Those are some horrendous results right there. Like I said, these are the worst. This is the worst prints I've ever had on this machine before. You know, there's some where it's kind of like rough, you know, or it's like but with a few tweaks with like that overlap that I just set to 60 because 25 and 30 just didn't seem to do it. But these are horrendous. These are horrendous. This is absolutely insane. So getting something like this and seeing these results, I mean, look at that. That is horrible. And again, initially I thought it was the Tinkercad that had a corrupted file when I exported it, but I went and did the Benchy. It was the same thing, the worst Benchy ever. So I posed the question on Reddit, didn't get any responses, so apparently not anybody else is having this problem, but I've got a Mac, 2023 Mac, and I've got enough memory, the whole 9 yards, and like I said, prior to this Creality print upgrade, I never had any problems. I had excellent prints. So yeah, that's what we got going on. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to continue with this. We'll go ahead and we'll let this run, and hopefully we'll get a good print on this. So yeah, and that's the little part that I was doing. You know, had it set on the side there, and you know, on that face there, boom, should have been easy peasy, but it wasn't. Oh man, yeah, crazy stuff. And you know, I ended up, let's see if we can get a close-up of this, but you can see, let's move this out of the way a little bit. We'll put that over here. We'll minimize that, make it real small, and we'll take a look at that. Sorry for wow, that is really, really bright, isn't it? Let's go, hold on a second. I got to get the, let me make some adjustments here because that brightness is killer. So hopefully this is a little bit better. Yeah, there we go. But look at that. That is like some horrible, horrible stuff. And you can see, I mean, even on that piece there, on the top, I mean, you can't even, it doesn't even join together. It is like the worst print I have ever had. And let's see if, I mean, look at that. That is horrible. That is, I mean, who gets prints like that? That is absolutely insane. And then here is the Benchy itself, which is the worst Benchy that I've ever had. And let's see if we get that. But you can see how, yeah, it is a horrible Benchy. You know, you can see through the top there that we're not even getting connection, and it's really hard because it's washing out from the light above. But yeah, you can see those edges in the corners are just not doing well at all. So, man, you know, what do you do? So obviously what we ended up doing is going back to the previous version, and we're going to see what happens with that. Excuse me a minute. I'm just going to do some little fan action here. So yeah, absolutely crazy. Some wild stuff that we got going on. So, you know, like it is, went back to the previous version, uploaded that, and reprinted the other file. And what we ended up getting is something a little bit better. So if we can end up seeing there, so you can see that is monumentally better. Now we've still got a little bit of separation from the wall to that top surface area there. Kind of like you can see a little bit of those nicks and spots and stuff right there. You can see a little bit of those holes. But this is definitely a hell of a lot better than what it was before. And which is nice. I mean, that's good, but it's still not at the place of where it should be. I mean, this is good for a prototype part, which it is anyway. But the original one was trash, so we'll get rid of that. But yeah, how is that even a thing? I mean, I don't know. I sent reports to Creality. Of course, if something happens, of course, with my Mac. And again, I got to say this about Creality. Creality has some problems with keeping up the Mac side of the house. I have a Mac. It is what it is. But it seems that the Windows version does a lot better, according to other people, than they do with the Mac side of the house. So the Mac is like a one step behind. I still have it to where the program freezes and I have to force quit, after I'm done with the project and trying to close it. Sent things to Creality and they ended up saying, yeah, we're working on it. And, thanks for letting us know, blah, 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 all of that. So, I don't know what to say. It's, maybe I'll have to get a Windows machine that I don't really want just to do this. Or what I could end up doing is branching out and try some different ones, like Orca Slicer. Orca Slicers have some good stuff. Prusa, if I could get Prusa's done a lot of good upgrades in regards to their slicer and how they tried to figure out some problems with their prints and the quality and the finish of the prints. And it ends up that they did some really good work. So that is going out over the Prusa slicer, but they don't have the Creality K2 Plus as an option for that slicer. So in other words, you'd have to make that. And if you know Prusa is kind of like a half step back in regards to, what shall we say, keeping up with the Joneses, with the software, and it's they still do manual knobs and the old style navigation systems and stuff like that. It's kind of like they're a half step behind. And so with that, even back on the older printers, just trying to hook up a wireless network, hooking up to your network was just kind of horrible. It was like, holy crow, you're operating as if this thing was 5 or 10 years old when you're trying to hook up to a wireless network. So they've gotten better over time, which is good. But I mean, it's just strange that they were so far behind, and it took a while for them to catch up. So hopefully, I'm going to look into the Prusa slicer. I do have the Orca slicer, and we'll see how that goes. And I don't know if you can use the bamboo slicer with the K2 Plus, so we'll see. I don't know. That'll be an interesting little thing, a little object that we got. I have both Mac and Windows just for situations that you were referencing. Yeah, I know. I used to have a Windows computer when I was doing firearms training, and I had some specific software that there was no Mac, version of it. In use of force training and laser firearms and videos and the whole 9 yards. It was a really extensive setup. Excuse me, that I had for that system, and worked really well. I used it to help train the military when we had the contract for the MP companies at the MPs on Fort Carson, and I'd use it during my CCW classes and working with people, and it was really, really good. So, but I got rid of that when I moved because we downsized and we sold everything when we came to Korea except for the Mac laptop. And then, of course, now all the stuff that we have here is the stuff that I got after we got here. But I might have to get a Windows. Let's take a look and see where we're going on this. Let's see if we can do a overlay, a screen share overlay specifically. And let's see if we can make this a little bit bigger for the Benchy that we're ended up printing now, which I think we can end up doing. There we go. And even then, we can really get this dialed in so we can get a good picture of the Benchy as it's printing, because we're doing this. Don't grab that. There we go. So we got a live feed of our Benchy being printed. Now this is after I went back to the previous Creality print software, and then I also ran a calibration, a full calibration on the machine, so we will have a reference between the ugly Benchy and this Benchy, and we'll see how well it turned out. And with a minor tweak on that. So yeah, that's what we got going on. I don't know what to say. Sometimes it's like, it makes you wonder if Creality goes out and actually tests what they do, or they just have a bunch of people, doing the program and doing the fixes, and then they don't run it on, maybe they run it on a Windows machine, but they don't run it on Macs or whatever to see if there's any problems. I'm not sure. But yeah, that version was horrible. That was the worst version that I've seen. So yeah, what do you do? And like I said, which version was this? Yeah, that was it right there. The version 6.2.2.3203. So yeah, worst Benchies ever. So what do you do with that? Yeah, crazy stuff. Other than that, everything else has been going pretty well. I've been enjoying it, having a good time. We're going to be taking a trip to Vietnam here pretty soon. Going to be going to Hanoi and Sapa and Franzipan. Going to enjoy some egg coffee, and of course Vietnam is a great coffee place, so we'll see if they can measure up to my high standards. I'm pretty particular about my lattes, so we'll see how they do. But with that said, I've tried some different coffees, and kind of doing some experimentation with some of the coffees that they have in the recipes. So Vietnamese coffee, they use condensed milk, which is really, really sweet, and it's just kind of a different. I don't know if I like condensed milk as a sweetener. I get it that it's in a can and it stays for a long time. You can store it. It doesn't have to be in a refrigerator. I totally get that. And I think that's part of the draw with it. But as far as taste and everything, I don't know if I'm a fan of condensed milk and espressos and lattes and things like that. But we're going to keep an open mind. Excuse me. We're going to keep an open mind and see what happens when we get to Vietnam, which is going to be an interesting trip. We're going to spend about 10 days there, and yeah, should be good. With that, we since we're waiting for this to print out, and it looks like it's doing pretty good. I could probably go take a look. I wish this camera was in color. That's all I got to say on that. This black and white type of thing. That's the other thing that I don't like about some of these companies. If you're going to make a machine that is a high-end machine, at least put a high-end camera in it, or a 720p camera, or a 1080p color camera. I don't know. Here it is. Yeah, all the best to your upcoming trip to Vietnam. Can't wait to hear your feedback on the coffee. Yeah, that'll be an interesting little trip. It's going to be a lot of walking. We fly into Hanoi. We're going to spend, I think, a couple of nights there, and then we're going to take a train, which is like a 9 or a 10-hour train ride to Sapa, and Sapa is really a resort destination, and it's kind of like the Alps of. It's got a real European feel to it, and of course Vietnam, the French were there, and some other folks, way back in the day. So they had a lot of influence on the architecture and so on and so forth. And there's a lake there; it looks really pretty. Really looking forward to checking that out. So let me check something else out here. As far as our audio, is our audio syncing up? 1, 2, 3. I hope it is. I think it is. Okay, I think we're good. I've had a lot better results with the camera since I put it into the video switcher, and it's less drain on the Mac, which is another thing that I thought, well, maybe because I got too much plugged into the Mac that I ended up getting the worst Benchy I've ever had. And it was like, no, because I had the same stuff before, so that was easy to rule out. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this turns out. We've got about 21 minutes left, and let's see what else. I guess we could kind of go over the last projects that I've been doing. So we end up having this here, which is our cell phone teleprompter. So we've been working on that for the desk, and the little hack that we ended up doing with that is putting some privacy glass film on the 4x6 piece of glass, and it turned out great. So we used to get some ghosting, but now, as you can see, it comes out super clear. So pretty happy about that. Yeah, this turned out really good, and again, a free little trip there. But the only issue is, as you can see here, is that it's going to be a lot darker. Of course, everything's go the other way. Everything is a lot darker with that privacy film, so I might have to make some adjustments on the film, but it's not that big of a deal. You can always adjust your brightness and things like that, but that could be an issue with that. But other than that, the fit and finish on this came out really nice. We ended up doing the camera slider, so we've got the connection for the camera here. We can undo that and slide the mount back and forth. So whether I'm using a handy cam like the Sony AX53, or if we end up using like a webcam, both of those can work on this. Might have to zoom in because of how narrow this is, so you might get a little bit of the frame on here, and especially on the top when using a webcam, and maybe even the handy cam there. But that's kind of the thing with teleprompters anyway. So the next teleprompter that I ended up doing was the BS 5000. Now this is the minimal BS. For the people that don't like a lot of BS, this is the BS 5000 minimal version. BS stands for beam splitter. And what I ended up doing is purchasing some beam splitting glass that's supposed to negate the ghosting effects of a regular glass. And what I found is that the regular glass, it's not that big of a deal. So you can end up seeing there, that comes out pretty good. Now this is the beam splitting glass, and it's all nice and clean, and everything works out pretty darn good. So you can use a cell phone, or you can use a tablet. So I can use my mini tablet or my regular tablet. And yeah, this works out pretty good as well. So again, we kind of made a little bit of a bigger L bracket on the back. And again, what we can end up doing is, adjusting this up and down to whatever size we need. And yeah, I think it turned out pretty good. So maybe you have to put a little bit of a lock nut on there. But, even if you have something kind of like a web camera, you could end up putting the web camera on here and mounting that as well, and you'd be good to go. And you wouldn't have any of the frame getting in the way because there is no frame. But you would get some glare possibly from the overhead lights. So, you know, maybe have to get like a cloth to put over this to kind of shield that. But this minimalist system turned out really nice. I'm pretty happy with this. And something that should be noted is with this minimal BS 5000, you can also use an 8x10 piece of glass. So instead of having to spend $25 for beam splitting 12.7 inch display glass for teleprompters, you can just go to the dollar store, thrift store, Goodwill, whatever it is, and you get an 8x10 photo frame with glass, and that fits in here as well. So yeah, if you want to go on the cheap, you can do that. I'm still doing some other modifications, and once I've got everything done, I will post that onto the Creality page for all of that, so that'll be good. Yeah, it ends up awesome. Resembles the advanced teleprompter in my vehicle. Oh, really? Wow, that's kind of cool. Yeah, I kind of saw that because I was like, hey, you know, of course you have the teleprompters like the president has, or, you know, people like you know, the important people, how it's kind of got that 45-degree angle, but there's nothing else on there. Don't have to worry about glare. But yeah, that's kind of a cool thing. So trying to save some money on that. I think this ended up, I think it was like $12 or $15, $16. I think it's $12 worth of material, of filament, and then you throw on some nuts and bolts, you know, it's like $15, $16, something like that. And then the glass, depending on where you get it, could be dollar store, could be $1, you know, thrift store, whatever. Pretty easy to get an 8x10 piece of glass, so you can use both of those, and it works out pretty good. So one of these days, maybe, after I get some other parts that are due in, like the knurled insert quarter 20s for like the bottom piece of this that we have here, I'll heat sink that little quarter 20 female part in there and actually be able to mount this on the desk. And maybe I'll do some videos where I use a teleprompter. I don't know. Pretty much I don't use a teleprompter. Just don't do it. I like having the conversations and, you know, the questions and stuff like that. So it is what it is. Let's see. Let's go back and see where we're at in regards to our benchy. Looks like we're not doing too bad there on the older version of Creality Print. Let me run in there real quick. And if you haven't liked and subscribed to the channel, go ahead and do that. I'm just going to run in there and take a quick look and see live and in color what it looks like, and see if it kind of give us a little teaser on whether it's better than the worst benchy that I've ever had on the K2 Plus. Be right back. Yep, it is looking a lot better. Definitely a lot better than what we had before. Holy crow. For those of you just getting on board, yeah, we upgraded the Creality Print software because it popped up and says, hey, we got a bunch of fixes, you know, upgrade, you know, download and do all that cool stuff. And we did that, and we ended up getting the worst pictures ever. It was like, what? Let me see if I can get, where are some of those pictures at? No, not there. There, oh, there it is. No, that's not the one we want. We want this one. There it is. Boom. So yeah, that was the model that we ended up having. Truly horrible. And again, you look at that benchy. That is one horrible benchy. I don't know about you, but this is the worst benchy that I've ever had on my K2 Plus ever. So I don't know if it's, I mean, my Mac is up to date. There hasn't been any upgrades for that. So I know that wasn't a problem. It's not like there was a Mac software update. I updated and then boom, suddenly, had an update for the Creality print. And so maybe those two different variables caused the problem. No, I haven't had that because before my prints were awesome. It's like we're seeing. But yeah, that is a horrible benchy. That is a horrible, horrible benchy. And if we take a look, let's zoom in on this one here. And you can see, look at how horrible that is. That is over there. That is horrible. That is, holy crow, that is bad. Like I said, that is the worst print ever. And then if we kind of slide over a little bit more and we take a look, that's the other side of it. I mean, what do you do with that? Immediately go back to the previous version. So yeah, I'm not really happy with that. And even then, going back to the previous version, the print, the newer print is still, there's still some little things on there, but I think with the, the infill overlap that we ended up taking a look at, the infill wall overlap, it was set to 30, which is what the, let's go ahead and we'll bring that up. Where are we? Trying to figure this out. Boom! Okay. We'll just go for this right here. And we can see that. And so that infill wall overlap is generally set at 30, 25 or 30. I noticed this time it was set to 30. And again, that's where the wall and that top surface come together. And it wasn't looking like those lines were really connecting up to that wall. So I bumped this up to 60 and we'll see how that goes. And I've had a couple of other people recommend this as well, as bumping that up because they also saw the problems with that overlap. So yeah, I'm not sure if that's just a thing for, I don't know. But that overlap thing is just, that right there says infill areas enlarged slightly to overlap with wall for better bonding. The percentage value is relative to the line width. Set this value to 10 or 15% of the minimum potential over extrusion and accumulation of filament resulting in rough surfaces. Who knows what? I'm just going to bump it up to 60 and see what happens because the other one was just rough. So yeah, it is what it is, Let me see, where are we at now? Let's take a look, see how much time we got back. We've got about 9 minutes left, about 9.5 minutes, so we're getting a little bit better. We can see that is definitely, let's do an overlay again. We'll do the screen share overlay, like so. I'm getting better at this. And that, and that, and we'll do that. Don't worry, I'm gonna make it bigger. That's what they all say, right? So there it is. So it's definitely looking a lot better than what it was. So yeah. Let me see if I can do this a little bit more. There we go. Looking a lot better. Even though it's pixelated, it looks a little rough. It's definitely looking a lot better than what we had before. Holy crow, that was terrible. So, fun stuff. We'll see what happens and just keep going on. Let's see. George pops up and says, isn't there a correlation between an increase in infill and an increase in the print being brittle? increase in infill and an increase in the print being brittle. The brittleness kind of depends on, from what I understand, depends on the material that you're printing with. So it being brittle, it's just PLA. So I don't know if that's actually a thing. Increase in infill and increase in the product being brittle. If you don't have much infill, it won't be as strong on the inside, but then it kind of depends on what you're using the print for. If it's just for a display piece, then usually kind of like, what are we taking a look at? Kind of like you see my Hulk back here. That's got like an infill or 5 or 7%, but it's not a big deal because it's just a display piece, and I just didn't want to have a lot of, didn't want to have to use a lot of filament. So, and then the another one is this one here. So if we take a look at this is primed, by the way. But if we take a look at this guy, this is printed at 0.16 millimeters. And we can see that is pretty good. But if I'm not mistaken, I think this was 5.5% infill. But you don't need, I mean, it's still a good infill. It's gyroid. And I've been starting to work on some stuff with, what is it, any cubic something or other. I can't remember what it was. What was that? Not gyroid, but adaptive cubic. That was the one. But for stuff like this, 5-7% is totally fine. But if you want something a lot more stronger, so for example, stuff like the teleprompter stuff, I'll bump it up to 10 or 15%. And if it's definitely something that's going to be weight bearing, I might even take it up a little bit more. So yeah, it kind of depends on the use. As far as like brittleness, I don't, it depends on the use, but for something, a display piece like this, yeah, 5.5%, 7%, totally fine. So, George says, like when steel is too hard. Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah. With that, let me get this back. But the thing is, the PLA, the plastic, is you're going to heat it up to, whatever the temperature is, which is nozzle temp is going to be 225 is what I ended up using. And let's see, what is the, let's take a look and see. Take a look-see. Nozzle bed temperature 55. Nozzle 225 is what we're looking at. Chambers 36. So the only thing is if it gets too hot, it might get too runny, and then you might have some problems then. But when you heat steel and it gets too hard, yeah, you're going to run into some brittleness, but not so much, as long as you operate within the parameters of the PLA or the filament that you're using, you shouldn't have any problems. If you want more strength, then generally your infill is going to be a higher percentage of infill. Like the piece, this is a test piece, I think I only did like 5%, but the walls are two walls. But when I print this out as a final product, once I do the prototype and everything, we'll probably do like 5 or 6 walls on this piece because it really needs to be strong. And the infill is going to be, what was it, 25% or something? What was, yeah, 5 walls and 20% infill, 6 top layers, 4 bottom shells. And so that's going to be a pretty hefty part. But, even with benches and stuff like that, even with just a 5%, I mean, you can really press on this, and you're not going to get anything with that. Whether it's the gyroid or grid or whatever type of infill that you're using on something like this, you're not going to notice a difference. The only thing that you would see with the difference with the infill is if you had a large, big surface area and you had a smaller percentage infill, then you might get some flex in there. It would also depend on the type of infill that you use. Let's say if you do a grid and you've got a high percentage of infill, your grid squares are going to be smaller, so you're going to have more strength in that part. But if you do a lower percentage on that grid, your grid squares are going to get bigger, and so you can get some flex on those top walls. So yeah, it's kind of an interesting little thing, but it's not like steel. But I get what you're saying, because that kind of makes sense, especially if you come from doing some industrial work and you kind of understand that stuff. You would think that would be it, but yeah. It's not kind of like that. It really, for strength, it really depends on the number of walls that you have and the percentage of your infill. Even in doing cosplay, you're looking at, like armor plating and stuff like that. You're looking at like what, 20, 25% infill of your favorite infill pattern, doing like 4 or 5 walls to give you that strength and durability, and you're good to go. Helmets, probably be good with 2 or 3 walls, and infill density, like the helmet that I ended up doing, that's a good thing. What was that one? Let me see if I've got that. Organizer. Helmet. Open project. Let's see if I can pull up the helmet that I ended up doing. Okay, blah. And we will go here, do our Creality save files, and we'll go to Galactic Armory. Nope, that's not it. That's the one I want is the I forget the name of the thing that I wanted to print out. The armor. Doomslayer. That's it. Doomslayer. So Doomslayer helmet. So let's open that up. And we'll take a look at that. And since we're almost done with we can get rid of that. We'll just go full screen on this. So there's the Doomslayer helmet. And let me move some stuff around to make this just a wee bit bigger. And if we look at this, this has 3 wall loops. And this is an infill density of 10%, used gyroid. And yeah, so it's, you would think three wall loops, 10%, how would that turn out? Let me go get that helmet and I'll show you what we're talking about. So, and I think the benchy's done. Is the benchy done? Yes, the benchy is done. So let's see, we'll get the benchy and we'll take a look and see what's going on. Verithus, hey, good morning. Good morning, sir. No, we're not doing a helmet. We're going over the worst benchy and models that I've ever printed with the last Creality print upgrade. So I had to go back and yeah, so we're redoing a benchy and we'll do a comparison. We'll give a catch up. But we had some questions on like walls and brittleness of parts and things like that. George was asking a question on that, so you can read his comments. And kind of like when steel gets heated up too much, it gets too hard, it gets too brittle. Kind of wondering the same thing with 3D printing, PLA, and I told him no, just kind of because the strength is going to come from your number of walls and the percent of your infill. And like we ended up showing with the helmet, we got 3 wall loops and we did 10% infill density. So with that, discuss And then what I'll end up doing is I'll get the benchy and get the helmet and show you what I'm talking about. Okay, we're back. We're back. We're back. We ended up getting our benchy, which is a lot better. We got a little bit of stringing on here, but let's do a before and after. Ferrithus says, I updated my Creality print software and didn't have any issues so far. Odd. Yeah, that's what I thought too. I thought it was just because the model that I had printed, which was in the trash, just kind of an update on that. You can see how horrible that is, which is just monumentally horrible. That is like the worst print I've ever had. And so we trashed that. I went back to the previous version of Creality Print. Again, I'm running a Mac, and then, prior to that, I had done this benchy, and that was kind of like the worst benchy that I've ever had. It's kind of hard to see this because we got so much light, but you can kind of see what we got there. Just a horrible, it is the worst benchy I've ever had on this machine. And then I went back to the previous version of Creality Print, and then what we ended up getting is definitely a lot better. I'll probably have, like I said, I increased, we got that little hole down there, have a little increase in that infill wall overlap. I bumped that up, but here is the benchy. And this is definitely a lot better than the ugly benchy that we ended up having. And again, I apologize for the light, but that is definitely a lot better. Got a little dingleberry there, a little bit of stringing. Yeah, so like I said, it was kind of an odd thing. Yeah, definitely odd. So I don't know if it's a Mac issue or it's just particular to me. Again, I didn't change anything in regards to my computer. Everything was running and doing, everything was good to go on that. So, what do you do? Let's see. Yeah. So that's what we got going on. Really, really interesting. So, like I said, I went back to the previous version of Creality Print, did the full calibration, the whole 9 yard, shut it down, turn it on, full calibration, and definitely getting much better prints in regards to, the benchy. Got a little bit of stringing, which I'm not sure why, because on the previous benchies that I had it all dialed in, so I'm not sure what the problem is now with the little bit of stringing that we got. That's kind of like the most stringing I've had on a benchy or any test model for that matter. So, but it does seem that infill, and Ferrithus is the one who talked about increasing that infill overlap. The infill wall overlap, because it was set at 30, but like on this thing here, when we were talking to George, it ends up, this is a helmet that I printed, and this had the infill wall overlap. This was 10% gyroid infill, and how many walls do we have? 3 walls on this. I'll just go ahead and so this turned out really good. Oh, and here's, hey, it actually closed down, or did it? Nope, it didn't. Here's what I want to show you. So we go down here to the Creality print. Oh, it won't show it. Dang it. Because you can't see it. What? Seriously? Show the current application. Let's just do the entire screen. Can we do that? Yeah. So down here on Creality print, if we take a look at this, even though I shut the program down and it's gone, it hasn't quit. So I have to go down and I have to force quit. So yeah, I don't know what the deal is with that. So it's just, I don't know. Maybe it's just a Mac thing, but everything's updated on the Mac. But for George, in regards to this helmet, again, this was 3 walls. What was it, like 10% infill or whatever? Super strong. I mean, this is the bomb here. So, but yeah, I don't know. It didn't have any problems. Yeah, the helmet should. Yeah, Ferrithus is actually absolutely right that the infill overlap wouldn't be affected by that setting on the helmet. But when you're talking about something like this, where that wall and then the flat surface joined together, I think you're the guy. Yeah, you're the guy who recommended setting that to 60 for me, because we had problems with that on previous benchy just a little bit. So, but yeah, the helmet came out awesome. But yeah, the ugly benchy, it was ugly. It was ugly. And just for your entertainment, there you go, Mr. Ferrithus. That was the ugliness of the Creality print upgrade. I mean, talk about horrendous. And that was the, what was that version? There it is. That was that version 6.2.2.3203. Yeah. But that is still a horrible benchy. And that's a horrible piece there. Insane. Yeah, I know. Crazy. Therapist pops in. Yeah, absolutely crazy on that. That is the quality on that. I was like, what the hell's going on now? I mean, that is truly insane what we ended up having there. So again, going back, I don't know if it's a Mac thing. My computer's updated, the whole 9 yards. We're good to go. Matter of fact, let me just double check. Mac Mini, blah, 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 blah. And the other thing is that I've unplugged some things and I'm using a video switcher, so I'm not getting as much draw. It's not power intensive with all this other stuff that I had plugged into my machine because I'm using a video switcher. But yeah, I'm in the current update of Mac Sequoia. We had problems with that, but now we're good to go on that. So I don't know. And the machine itself, the K2 Plus, also has the most current firmware. So there's that. I don't know. Maybe I don't have any issues with the update. Been printing and lasering all day. Congratulations. That's awesome. But are you running a Mac or are you running Windows? That's the question. Inquiring minds want to know. Because if I keep running into problems like this, and for example, in Creality Print, if you bring an STL in there and you've got some, you get the red error box that it says, hey, too many problems, you need to fix the model, but the fix option is only on Windows, it's not on Mac. I'm wondering if it's a Windows thing. Yeah, Ferrithus says, yeah, he's a Windows guy. So I'm seriously considering getting a Windows laptop just for Creality Print, and the other slicers and stuff like that. So I'm also thinking about trying Orca Slicer since I have a Mac and see if that's any better, and then maybe try Prusa Slicer because they came out with some upgraded some upgrades for finer finishes, which look really promising. But they don't have a profile for the K2 Plus, so I'm not sure how to go about doing that. Of course, just chat GPT or Grok it, and I'm sure I can find that out. But yeah, seriously thinking about getting a Windows computer just because of that. So I think that might be part of the issues there, because Creality is a dollar late and a few steps back when it comes to on the Mac side of the house. So yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, I'm thinking I'm gonna have to go back to Windows. I'll just have to get a reasonable laptop. Boom, have that, and that will be dedicated only for kind of like what you're doing, only for laser engraving, only for 3D printing, and what else? The Galactic Armory is coming out. They're still working on that Armor Smith type scaling cosplay armor program, because Armor Smith, of course, that only works on Windows as well. But they're doing an upgraded version of that, and so I'm waiting for that to come out. But they're going to have a Mac version. So that's kind of a good thing there. But still, I don't know. I might have to go back to Windows and just have a laptop just for, slicing. I don't know. It's some crazy stuff that we got going on. With that, I'm wondering, Orca Slicer. Oh, Ferrithus, do you use, you just said you use Creality print. Never mind. Answered my own question. Imagine that. Neverton says LG has an amazing laptop on sale now at the exchange, the Gram touchscreen laptop. Really? I might have to check that out. Matter of fact, we do have to go on post today. I got to check the mail, and I think we need to pick up a couple things at the PX, so I'll stop by and check that out. The LG Gram touchscreen laptop. So yeah, I'll definitely check that out. Thank you. So, but now I'm thinking about pulling up. Let's just do a screen share thing, and let's see. Kind of do this a little bit. Cody pops in and says, "Love Orca Slicer." I haven't used Orca Slicer much, but now that I'm having these issues with Creality print on my Mac, I'm seriously, like I said, I've got this here. Maybe we could just pump this in here. But I'm wondering how, no, that's not what I want. And how does it know, because I got 4 spools on my CFS, and does the Orca Slicer recognize, maybe Cody can answer this question, and if you have a K2 Plus, does Orca Slicer recognize the CFS in the multiple systems? I see this that we have on the screen here. Generic PLA, Creality. I think it's high-speed PLA. No, that's not what we want. Let's get rid of that, close that. We got the profiles. We'll do 0.2 standard, aligned, ironing, arachne. We're good to go on that. Strength, 2 wall loops, 15%. Crosshatch, more of a gyroid or adaptive cubic. Gyroid. Ferrithus Pop says, I have a little Chinese Windows Mini PC for my telescope, a large desktop PC for my everyday everything, and a laptop for my mobile and the field stuff. And what was that last little bit? all of them remote control each other. Cool. Yeah. Yeah, I might have to go and check that out. Check out that LG laptop. Let's see what else we got. Sparse infill density. Let's run that at 5%. Gyroid. Or we could do adaptive cubic. I haven't tried that. I'm looking into that more and more because more people are recommending that adaptive cubic. And let's see what else do we got on here. I think we're good there. Speed, we'll just let that. That we'll set to 60. First layer top surface are good. Support. We'll enable support. We'll do tree auto default. Grid organic. I don't know, we'll try that. Angle on build plate only. Ref, we're not worried about that. Top Z distance 0.24 or 25 or 26 is what I put. We'll see what happens with this. Bottom 0.2, which is good. Cody says, I don't. Oh, okay. So we're going to see how this works out. I think this will be the first time I've ever printed something on Orca. So that multi-material, I don't think we got to worry about that. Brim type auto, I think this will be good to go. Anycubic is nice for really large items because it saves filament. Otherwise, it's just use triangle. Prints fast and one of the strongest infills in all directions. Cody says, but it will do multicolor when there's no auto magic that I know of. Okay. We're just going to try to do one. And let's see. Can we do a model? Handy models. 3D Benchy. And there is our Benchy. And we will slice the plate. We'll see how this goes. And no, we don't want supports. So let's reslice this. And this should take us 29 minutes. And export print. And I think I've got this. Print. Device. Printer connection. Rad rig, no. Okay. Whoa. Alrighty. What do we got going on here? Set up your printer connection to view the device. Device file. Project into. Don't you love this? Not knowing. Setup wizard. That. Custom printer. K2. Creality K2 Plus. That. Okay, we'll just do. Yeah, I'll probably just do 4. Okay. Next. Filament selection. I'm not really worried about that. Finish. And we will transfer that over. Printer connection. Set up a printer connection to view your device. Creality K2 Plus. There we go. I think we've got that. New value. transfer. And now, see if we can slice this plate up. Orientate, slice, export. I don't want to export. I want to send it to print. The Benchy has a floating region. How is that floating? That should be good. K2 plus, hostname browse, cancel. I don't think it's Octoprint. It is Creality print. There we go. So browse. Interesting stuff we got going on. We're waiting for that to pop up. By the way, I can totally recommend the HEPA activated charcoal filter combo for the air filtration system you're planning. The air I exhaust outside barely smells. My neighbors are happy. Awesome. That did look like a really cool system. Creality print. Oh, I need to get my, as I'm doing this, I'm gonna need my IP address. So copy that, we'll put that in there. We'll see if that pops up. Test. So we're trying to do this hook up to the printer. Could not connect to Creality print, timed out, check if the printer and the computer network are functioning properly, which I know they are. Seriously. Browse. Put your IP in the box under the slicer you just selected. Yep, I did. Yep, Lauren, I did that. I'm waiting. And it's not doing anything. Let's take a look at this. So there, that is Creality print. So that's in there. If I go OK, and that's good. If I go here, then there's that. And if I do test, this is where it pops up and it says, I wonder if I got to do Clipper. Could not connect to Creality print, check if the printer's on, I know that. Maybe Octo Clipper and we'll see what happens. Because it is kind of a clipper machine-ish. Keep fingers crossed. Does not connect to that. My Creality print is turned off. I wonder if I need to have that on. It shouldn't have to. If I do browse, it just, that's all it does. Odd. Because I think I've had this on before, otherwise I wouldn't have had this selected. Yeah, nothing pops up there. Okay. That is odd. Let's try system presets. Transfer those over. And again, okay. Browse and see if we get anything. Still have a heat wave going on. here in Korea. I don't know. We might be at an impasse here because it's not popping up with anything. Let's go back to Creality print. We'll try that. We'll hit OK. We should be good to go. Test. Maybe I have to have Creality print running? I don't think so. That doesn't make sense. If I go to browse, still does the same thing. And this, yeah, nothing there. I don't know. Print. Why is it not connecting? That is odd. Fine. I don't have a self-assigned certificate. Test doesn't work. Wow, this is odd. It's just not working. No worky. Try Octo Clipper once again. We'll see what happens with that. So nope, not. And the network I know is working because on that it says that it's online. That is odd. Check the test button. Yeah. Yeah, I was hitting the test to see what happens. I just get the spinning blue ball. I don't know. And it says, could not connect to Octoprint. So it doesn't work with Octoprint, and it doesn't work with Creality print. Because Octoprint / Clipper, since the K2 Plus is a Clipper machine, says could not connect, connection timed out, check to see if the printer and computer network are functioning properly, which I know we are. I don't know. You might need the .4408 after you're up. Well, that'll get me the fluid. Let's try that. I'm open to anything. And could not connect. Ah, dang it. Dang it. Let's see. Wait a second. Okay, 132, 106, and this says 105. Okay, maybe this is part of the problem. 106. But I copied that directly, 219, 168, 219, 106. Yeah, that's probably part of the problem right there. $219, 106. Imagine that. 219, 106. What are the odds? Boom. Put in the correct. Imagine that. Put in the correct IP address. What are the odds? Okay, so now let's go over here and we'll print, and I don't want to do that. Never mind that. Slice the plate. And we'll give this another shot. We'll see what happens. So, looking at 29 minutes, we'll print. G-code forward, switch device tab after upload. Upload and print. Boom. Not found. Seriously. Nice job, Steve. Steve 1, computer 0. That's not what this page says. Let's see. I don't think I hear anything. But it's connected up there. Print. Use the forward slashes as a directory if needed. Let's just try to do upload. File not found. Seriously? Really? No model information. Preview. Upload and print. File not found. Really? Still, Steve 1, computer 0. No, I think it's the computer's got the upper hand on this. Oh, wow. What is going on? I guess I could go old school. Well, let's see. Export G-code file. Boom. 3D Benchy, and we'll do that to here. We'll save that. Exported successfully, so we're good to go on that. We'll eject that disk. Close match. No, I don't think so. Alrighty. So now, what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to run this and pop this into the machine, and we'll see if we can get this thing going. And I'm not sure why we're not able to connect up to the device tab on this to see, and why we get that 404. I'll be right back. Okay. What? Seriously. In a device, that's not found. That is odd right there. Project. But why would that be? But the test comes out good. What do I do? I'm getting this close to getting a laptop. It was like here, and now it's here, and now it's like, I don't know. I'll go check the PX and see what that computer, that, what was that, the LG, LG Gram touchscreen laptop, the Gram. So I will check that out. Now I'm wondering, let's bring up Creality Print and printing and details. So we're getting, we get the live, so we can, I don't know. What do you do? What do you do? Work a slicer, about, build license info, blah. Window, help, keyboard, shortcut, check for updates. Got the newest version. I don't know. Is it a Windows Mac thing? Apparently. I don't know. We can view it on Creality Print, but we can't view it on. Yeah, I'd go figure. I don't know. That is just odd. Printer. Now, that's it. I think we're good. I mean, I don't know what else to say. I really don't know. I'm at a loss for words. So I guess what we'll end up doing is we'll just kind of watch this and monitor on Creality Print. And it's going through and doing the little touchscreen thingy that we got going on. Matter of fact, let's go ahead and screen share overlay. We'll do this so we can keep an eye on the sky. Let's see how this goes. Again, we'll keep an eye on this. See how that goes. Orca can't connect because Creality Print open. Maybe it blocks the connection, but it wasn't open before. That was the thing. It was shut down. Like only one slicer can be connected at a time, so there's no conflicting commands coming in. Yeah, that makes sense. But if we do this and we do that, and where were we? Orca slicer. Still come back to the device. Maybe file not found. Let's go ahead and we'll shut this down. Don't worry about it. Discard. And we'll open it back up. Device, file not found. But we do 219.106. And we are connected, and yeah, so we're good on that. It just, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. Yeah, so whether I have, yeah, let's see, what do you do? There we go. I don't know. One slicer at a time. And I've only got one slicer at a time. Anyway, so, there was another, as I'm going over. Amazing laptop. Just kind of going over any of the. I've never used Orca, so I don't know what to say. Sorry. Yep, it is what it is. Like I said, I'm about this close to getting a Windows, so we'll see what happens. So I'll have to stumble through. I think I'll stumble through with this so far and see what we end up with. And then we've got our trip in about 10 days or so going to Vietnam. And then when we get back, I don't know, unless that laptop is like really, really good price, the PX on post, I might pick that up. I don't know. We'll see. Dying of thirst. But at least with this, we'll be able to compare the two benchies between the K2 Plus, not the horrible benchy, but the one that we just did here, that we got there. I mean, that came out pretty decent. It's just some stringing on there, which is just a little odd. And then we got that weird thing on the back end, as you can see there. But the one side looks really good. The top is good. It's just some odd stringing. So I don't know. I don't know if you update Creality Print, if you I gotta go back and double check and see, I don't know, run flow calibration again or PID or whatever. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But we'll keep an eye on this. A ton of people say that Orca is pretty good, and they swear by it. So, I don't know. We'll see. Ferris says, the Windows laptop I have is HP Envy, goes between laptop and tablet by flipping the screen. I'm very happy with it. Best Buy deal of the day for $500. Nice. I'll have to keep that into consideration. Let's see. Fresh. Printing file. So we got that. And I've got, how many hours do I got in this thing? Cloud slicing, uploads, time lapses. No, that's not what I want. Device information. I don't know. What do you do? What do you do? No, that's not what I want. Let me check. Device information. I have 34 days, 14 hours, and 39 minutes of printing so far. So not too bad. Therapist says, Orca is the OG. All the other slicers are basically built on it. So is Creality Print. Print also has some Cure inside, which is what I used to use with my old printer. Yeah. OG. Let's see. Fingers crossed. See how this goes. Because if this ends up working, of course then, if I use Orca, I'm going to have to end up calibrating my filament again, because it's calibrated for Creality Print. So I'd have to run the calibration for the filament in Orca. So, but why it doesn't come up on that device tab, I have no idea. That is just odd. Go figure. Where do I see the total print time? Let me see if I can pull that up. If we go to, this is the machine, so if you go to Workbench on the Creality, come on. So you pop up on here, and then you can hit device, and you can pop up and you can see your total print hours. So 34 days and 14 hours. I wish that was more prominently displayed. But yeah, that's how you get that. And if you go to your Workbench, and then this pops up. Let's see if that'll, it does say it's online. It does say it's printing a Benchy, but it doesn't say how much. Okay, so that's hooked up. so that's good. Ah, it's only 220 though, and 50. So it won't let me change the parameter there. Interesting. I guess I might have to do that in a software. Oh, but it's printing off of, that's why it won't change. Because it's printing off of, well, I don't know. Printing. Doesn't have a start or finish time. Nozzle 219. Let's see if we can bump this up to, because usually I do 225 and 55. But it's not gonna let me do that. So I guess we're just gonna go off of the Orca and see how that goes. Alrighty then. So it's doing the full calibration, the whole 9 yards. Fun. What is that workbench thing in Creality Print? That will show your, so like when you go to your page here, yep, and then you go up to the top and you have that workbench, yeah. And it's just kind of odd how it's got these things going, how it's kind of organized. It's just kind of an odd little duck thing that they got going on. But then if you go to Creality Print, the actual software, but because I printed this off of Orca and off the G code, Ferrithus has got 45 days, 4 hours total print time. Cool. 560 completed prints. Awesome. Nice. Let's see. We can... let's do this. We will do screen share overlay. We'll get this so we just get this thing going on here. And it's going to go back and do its, still going through the calibration thing. Therapist says, okay, time for dinner here. Hope you're having a good day. Always good seeing you. Same as well. Good seeing you as well. Have a good dinner. Enjoy it. I'm going to struggle through and see what's going on with this, and seriously considering getting that laptop. I'll have to check out that Envy as well. Maybe I could be able to pick up something like that. Because like I said, yeah, just something, laser engraving and printer stuff, that is all I would use it for. So alrighty, sir. Have a good one. Good seeing you. So we got a few more people. So yeah, this will be interesting to see how this works. And the printer's doing its little extrusion thingy, the purging, checking out, doing the calibration. As that's going, I'm going to go get my drink. I'll be right back. red light that says recording. Right, yeah. Well, if I'm talking to myself, then yeah, it's probably best not to come in. Let's see. We're still going. We are still going. So, now we get some movement. Now, doing that final little line thing, and boom. Let's see if we can adjust this a little bit. We get a better picture here of our benchy using Orca. So, but yeah, so the people that are here that are checking this out had horrible, just really horrible stuff going on. He said, "You're not talking to yourself as you have an audience." Yeah, I do. That's true. That's true. But sometimes I do talk to myself, so maybe, yeah. But yeah, I think that's going to have to be the rule because don't want the wife popping in here unannounced, let's say. That would be rough. But yeah, going back to for the people that are in the know or want to know what's going on, ended up having the Creality print stuff going, and it was horrible in regards to getting the. Let's see if we can adjust this. Change some of this, move this over here, slide this over, bring this down, and we can bring that there, and boom, we can keep an eye on that. Just see what we're doing on our Orca benchy. But yeah, the print that we had was horrendous. And I'll throw up a picture here. Yeah, that's the quality of work that we got off of Creality print when I upgraded to the new version, the .3203 or whatever, and I printed out Tinkercad that I exported, and that's how horrible it came out. And I thought, well, maybe this just ended up being just a horrible mistake, and maybe it was a corrupted file. So I printed the benchy out that was on the machine, and you saw how horrible that was. And so it was like, yeah, the only thing that changed out of all the stuff was the Creality print software upgrade. So I went back to the previous version. We ended up doing a benchy, definitely better than the ugly benchy, which was like the worst benchy I've ever had. And we printed out the part, that same part again, and we got a lot better results on that. So, yeah, as you can see there, I mean, there's still some slight rough areas on there, but infinitely better than what we had down below there. So, and again, the only thing I can attest to is that it comes down to Creality. Their Mac game is not as good as their Windows game. And that is evident because when you go and you do things like when you import a file, for example, if you import a model and you might get that thing where it says that the model needs to be repaired, you get that little notice in red and it says you need to fix the model. But the fix function is only found on Windows version of Creality print, not on Mac. So yeah, they're a day late and a dollar short when it comes to doing their Mac stuff. So again, it's just going to be something that I'm really, like I said, I'm about this close to getting a Windows laptop just for the 3D printing and laser engraving stuff. So yeah. We can see the print's going pretty good. I wish the camera was in color. As much as you spend for the Creality K2 Plus, you would think they would have a full color camera. No, that's not what I want to do. I want to do that. So, and this is getting a little pixelated because we're blowing this up so much, but it is what it is. What do you do? The other tempting machine is the Bamboo H2S, the single nozzle, single head machine that they've got going on, which is a 340 by 320 by 340 build area, and it seems like there's a lot of good results on that. Granted, I don't necessarily like Bamboo and their lies of saying, "Oh, we would never transmit this information in our log files," and then Grant from 3D Musketeers and his crew found out that they did and more and lied about it and tried to, it was just gaslight people. Oh no, it's for your safety and security. But the thing you got to realize is that with every single Chinese company, every single one of them, if the Chinese government wants the data that they collect through their software and even Creality and Elegoo and all that stuff, those Chinese companies have no recourse whatsoever. They can't say, no, we're standing up and for the security, we don't want our customers' data to go to the communist government, the Chinese government. That's not going to happen. They have to give that information over, whether you like it or not. It's just that some companies are do that more blatantly than others. So, but all of your information, any Chinese company, any information that they get can go to the Chinese government. And from a few high-level important people that I've talked to, they get all of that information and then some. So that was kind of the thing with Bamboo that I didn't really like, was that Bamboo has their closed loop system. They require you to jump through hoops. You basically sign away all the rights. And so if you want to keep something private on what you're printing, whether just for yourself or your clients, or they want privacy, Bamboo's probably not the way to go. But they do have some awesome prints, awesome machines. And with the H2S, and now the one with the Vortex system with the multi-heads that they got going on that's going to be popping out, that's going to be pretty impressive as well. So again, they're going to be like the Apple of the 3D printing world. And with these machines, I think a lot of people got burned on the H2D because people were like, oh, it's a big build area, which it is, but it had the two heads on there, which is good if you do multi-material printing with two types, but you lost some of the build area and it wasn't as big. And then it had the laser, then it had the pen, the pen thing on there, and then the leather cutter, just things that nobody asked for. And so a bunch of people bought that because it was the largest build area Bamboo machine out there. And then when they came out and there's the rumors of the H2S, people were pissed. And then when they released the H2S, more people got pissed because they felt like they got screwed, because it's like, if they had known that, they wouldn't have bought the H2D. So, yeah. But it is what it is. That's what those companies do. You put out your biggest and most expensive, everybody buys it, and then you do the scaled down versions. And even Creality does the same stuff as well. Now you know how all my OF pics got on the net. My printer has been uploading my unflattering poses. Oh no! Unflattering poses. Yeah, that would be horrible. Yeah, that. And when you look at things like TikTok, if you read the terms and conditions of TikTok on the information that they can glean from your phone, basically, they can get anything they want off of it. You basically give them carte blanche and say, hey, here's my phone. You have access to all the information. The number of keystrokes, how you keystroke, what you keystroke and the information. I mean, pictures, videos, the whole 9 yards. I mean, it is probably the largest information gathering from people in the world is from TikTok. So, um, but being the ex-military, security-minded person that I am, it was kind of like, yeah, I don't really like that. And then, yeah, it just is what it is. That put a bad taste in my mouth. Of course, now it's like, what information are they going to get? My OF account, the unflattering poses, as Lauren puts out. Who really cares? Ooh, look, he was looking up stuff on 3D printing. But all of that mass data information that is gathered by these Chinese companies and goes to the Chinese government, that can be huge. It's just like the intelligence in the military. You take tons and tons of information and you can glean some very useful information out of it. Yeah, it's just kind of crazy. So, and then the TikTok in China is different than the TikTok in the United States. TikTok in China is like, they have like math competitions. Everything is geared toward making their citizens better and their children better in sciences and things like that. In the United States, yeah, not so much. So, new Prusa slicer update. So we got that. Just got this on my phone. Let's see what we got going on there. Says the Prusa slicer update could make Core 1 XL prints visually flawless. And this is what I was talking about with Prusa. They ended up coming up with this new thing for their slicer. And let me see if I can pull that up. Or what is it? What is that article? All 3DP. 3dp.com. And Prusa. Come on. Come on, come on, come on. Seriously? Really? What is the name of that article? New Prusa slicer. All right, let's take a look at this and see what we got going on. So we'll get rid of that. We'll just go right to the meat and potatoes with a little bit of advertising. So, the latest update to Prusa Slicer, seriously, to banish VFAs from your new Prusa, and improvements can be seen with almost any other printer as well. So that is why I was interested to see if I could get my K2 Plus and use Prusa on there. They don't have the profile for the K2 Plus, but this was the article that I was looking at to get rid of the VFAs or vertical fine artifacts. And where is print profile, speed and structure remain focus? Here it is. Sorry about that. They've been focusing on that. They posted several updates. So features, better print profiles, inconsistent gloss and matte surfaces. So the cause is the cooling slowdown function. On layers of small cross section, the printer must slow down to give the hot plastic enough time to cool and solidify before the next layer. Without it, the model would deform. But this is exactly what the material gets: different optical properties leading to inconsistent surface quality. Some materials are more prone to this and you won't notice it in others. So yeah, look at that. PET G improvement is almost noticeable. I mean, that looks a lot better. That's the before, that's the after. And with matte filaments, you won't see a difference unless you look really close, but That is really good. By the way, while working on this issue, we know that Orca Slicer has a feature called Don't Slow Down Outer Walls, which tried to solve the problem with a different approach, and it did great work on this. Our implementation is different, but it achieves a similar thing and is robust enough that we can turn it on by default. Key difference is that our method still factors in external perimeters during the cooling slowdown calculation, among other clever tricks. So yeah, that was the thing that I was talking about. That's why I was interested in doing the Prusa slicer. And there is, the Creality K2 Plus. That's a significant difference. Bamboo H2D. Look at that. Bamboo Lab. That is pretty good. Centauri Carbon. Yeah. Nice. Very nice. That is good. Just the belts, whatever. So, yeah, that's some good stuff there. Good stuff. So, with that, let's see how we're doing on our print. Seems like the Benchy's doing okay. So we'll see how this Orca Slicer Benchy turned out. Yes, I'm a little hungry. You heard the growling of the stomach. So yeah, how much time we got left? We got about 13 minutes left. So we got a minute or two. But yeah, that is pretty good. So I'm definitely gonna have to try that. So with the Prusa, and I must have that somewhere. Somewhere I probably have that. And what do we got here? We get rid of that. There we go. Kind of adjust this a little bit now that we've got more of our benchy action going. And I can take a look and see if I've got the Prusa slicer. And Prusa drivers. Prusa slicer app. Why don't we bring that down here? We also got the Bamboo app. Version 2.9.9. And we'll have to figure that out. We got all kinds of weird stuff going on here. So platter, print settings, Prusa slicer, project import, edit window, print settings tab, printer settings tab. And it's got my Saturn III Ultra, but we want to add a printer. But I want to get the Creality print one. That's the one that we're interested in right now. So we're checking out the Creality print, or not Creality print, but we're looking at the Prusa. Administrative assistant. Okay, yep, there's me. SLA printers by other vendors. Okay, so we'll do that. It's going to download everything in the kitchen sink. And it quit unexpectedly. Let's reopen that. I wonder if it's because I got so much other crap. Prusa Connect. Probably not. Prusa, let's go back, that. Check for configuration updates. why it's not showing the current application. That's kind of an odd thing. Okay, no updates available, printers. I'll go back and I'll try to download all those INI files. I guess I can just put it back on this page here. So that way we can so we're trying this again. Yes, I'm logged in. No, we don't want that. That. We're trying to check out the, we'll get rid of that window there. Trying to download all the sources for Creality to see if it has a profile for the K2 Plus on Prusa, but it's not coming up on the share screen. Oh, there it is. Now it is. Okay, so now we got Prusa. And standard all other, so we want that, and we'll go with Creality. Next. So there's the Enders. Ender 5, 5 Pro, CR family. We don't want that. We want, oh, it doesn't have the K2 Plus on there. Really? Creality Sermon? That's new. I haven't seen that before. Why doesn't it have the K2 Plus? CR5 Pro, Ender 6. There's an Ender 6 database. All. No, I don't want that. None. Wow. Anycubic, custom printer. I think I'd have to do that. Just go through. So I'll have to go through and try to check that out and see how that works. Dang it. Well, our benchy is coming along. So we got that for us. We got that going for us. We can bring that back up to speed and see how that's going. Yeah. A little bit of adjustment there, and we should be good to go. Okay, so the benchy's going. We're running the benchy. Like I said, I don't know, might have to break down and get a laptop. Get a Windows laptop for just 3D printing stuff and laser engraving. Because running into problems with this Creality print, with the Windows that people are not having problems with, and I've even contacted Creality and said, hey, what are the, got some problems, this is what's going on, and they're like, oh, yeah, we're working on it, and that's all I end up getting. So it just seems like they get the Windows stuff out, but as far as like the Mac version of Creality print and whatever issues, seems like, yeah, it's a little far behind. So that's where we're trying the Orca and maybe the Prusa, if we can get that up and running. I got to see how that goes. And then depending on the results that we get is really what it comes down to. What is going to give me the best print on Mac? And if not, maybe it's just a Mac problem, but I find that hard to believe with all the different slicers that we're looking at. I don't know. Any ideas would be helpful, so we'll see how it goes. We've got about 5 minutes left on our benchy. We're getting there. I'm going to pop in there and take a look and see how it looks. I'll be right back. Alrighty. Good news. It is looking way better than the Creality print version. So, the way things look right now, it looks really, really good. Orca looks like it's doing really good, and that doesn't even have the filament dialed in or calibrated, and it does look really good. So, might do Orca Slicer from here on out, but I do want to do a test of the Prusa Slicer, and if we can get that up and running, that's not gonna be in this video, but definitely you will see a noticeable difference. There is a noticeable difference between what we ended up getting with our horrible results from the Creality print, and like I said, that was the Creality print when we upgraded Creality print. That is a horrible benchy. that is the worst benchy I've ever had, hands down, period. And that was with the new Creality print software, and obviously went back to a previous version, and we ended up doing that, and we got a much better benchy. So, but it had a little bit of, you can see that there, a lot better. We had a little bit of some stringing there that we can end up seeing, but we still had some problem areas, but still a lot better than what it was before. So we got a little bit of, see the stringing on there, but for the most part, that's definitely way better. I've had better benchies, but this is, there's a couple of areas on here. I think I had some little dingleberries from some black that was on that silicone sock that kind of got on here. But I mean, it's a lot better. The wall and the infill overlay, when we bumped that up to 60, worked out pretty good, but it'll be interesting to see how this pops up on this benchy here. But it's looking really good, folks. It is looking really good. So I don't know, might have to just go with Orca. Might just have to go with Orca, which is a shame because basically all these slicers are the same. So really, I think a company like Orca Slicer should just be the slicer company, and then other companies like Creality or whoever it is, they just pay Orca to slap on some logos and do their little, maybe one-off things that they end up doing, but basically have Orca Slicer be the collective slicer, one of the collective slicers on the market, kind of like Prusa, and in that way, everybody gets the same thing instead of having each company having their own R&D and their own slicer people doing stuff which could be better or worse than others. Okay, so there it is. I'm going to run in and get this, and we'll bring it back and we'll take a look at the Orca Slicer printed benchy with K2 Plus. I'll be right back. It is so nice. It is so nice. Nice, my precious. Ah, man, this looks so much better. I mean, you got a little bit, but I mean, that is, oh, this is so much better. This is much better than the Creality print one. So if we can end up seeing that there, I mean, the inside is good. I'm sorry for the light. It ends up, there's a way. Let me try going, because I think what we can end up doing, and we will take a look and see if we can do it this way. So there is the one that we just printed out. And that ends up, that is really, really nice. So we see the top there. Let's see if we can try to get this where it will focus. But that is so much better than what we had before. And this was the other one. This is the Creality print one. And I don't know if this is focusing in as well, but if I had to choose between the two, I would definitely take the Orca one. So that is, the Orca one is the deal. You know, in here, let's go back to the desk. What we end up seeing is, let me get my little pointer tool. So this one here is the Creality print. And if we notice, like right in there, there is a little bit of separation between this part that goes up and the floor. So we got a little bit of that. We also end up having, I don't know, it's just not as clean. And we got a little bit of issues up on the top here. So that pops in there. But with the Orca one, on that same area right in here, that issue is gone. And look at that, that just came out really, really nice. So, and then the top of this turned out really good as well, compared to the other one. And then if we take a look at the horrible benchy, you can see the horrible benchy was just horrible. It was just the worst benchy that I ever had. But Orca Slicer is one. Because that's, we could throw this one away. And then if we look at the Creality print one, let me get a picture of this. You know what I'll do is I'll get a picture and we can throw that up on the board. So give me just a minute. Let's see if we can get a good picture of this stuff. So this side is the Orca. And let's do this. So we get a picture and we'll zoom in. Try to get a good top down. Seriously, there we go. do this side. Okay, alrighty. We are back. Definitely I can say that the Orca Slicer printed benchy is better than the Creality one. Wow, it is a noticeable difference. So, with that, let's pick these, and these. And that's preparing. I'll send this to myself. And that'll take a little bit, but definitely this is a lot better with the Orca printed benchy. It significantly better. Creality, you need to get your act together because you're falling behind. And this is with calibrated filament, by the way. So, yeah, I'm just not impressed. I mean, I'm still impressed, but considering now that you've seen the Orca Slicer one, and once we get these pictures in here, we will be able to get those. And let's get rid of that. I guess I can close down that. And we'll get back to the Prusa Slicer later. I got to figure out how to do that. But I'm pretty excited about the Orca Slicer. That turned out really, really good. So let's go ahead and we'll download these. And let's throw up some pictures here and show you what we got going on. Boom! Okay. The one on the top is the Orca Slicer. The one on the bottom is the Creality print. And so let's see if we can make this a little bit bigger. So you can see there are some differences in that. But it seems a lot cleaner and clearer with the Orca sliced one. So that's what we got on that. Let's see if we can do this. Can I rotate this? I think I can rotate this. Can I? Oh, I can. Yes, we can get a much bigger picture here. So the one on the left, or the one on the right, is the Creality. The one on the left is Orca, because we have the stringing with the Creality print, and again, that was with the calibrated filament. And we can see some of the finish on this is better on the Orca sliced one on the left. Let's take a look at another picture. And that's upside down, so we're going to rotate that to be like that. And so the one on the right is the Creality print, the one on the left is Orca sliced and printed. And again, you look at the back end of the one on the right and you see that little nick, like some kind of got into an accident. You can see the top of the roof. It's just not as crisp and clean as the one on the left. And yeah, it is Orca Slicer for the win. Another one for Orca Slicer. And then we'll do the back end. And we got to rotate these like so. And let's see if we can adjust some of this and get some of that unnecessary stuff out of the way. And so we can get a bigger view of this. So look at the difference on that. The one on the left is the Orca Slicer Benchy. The one on the right is the Creality print. And again, the Creality print one, we just see, you know, that ass end of the Benchy there on the right. Looks like it just got knocked or something, you know, so sharp jaws came into it. We've got the stringing on there. You can see that, you know, the lines is not as crisp and clean as we have on the Orca sliced one on the left. So yeah, I'm just gonna have to give it to yeah, I think I'm gonna have to give it to Orca Slicer. Lauren pops up and says, I think it's a Mac thing. I haven't updated my CP for the last two because my K2 has been spot on. Yeah, I think it's definitely a Mac thing with Creality, but now this shows me that Orca Slicer works and gives better results than the Creality print. So while it might be a Mac thing, I think Orca Slicer's got their collective stuff together compared to Creality when it comes to Mac and the slicers. So yeah. But doing a really close look at this, yeah, the Orca Slicer one is way better. Way, way better. Matter of fact, yeah, the walls on the top solid pieces and the walls don't come together in some places on here inside the wheelhouse with the Creality print one. Don't you love live stream? But here on the Orca sliced one, it's perfect. And we didn't even have to adjust that infill wall overlap, which in Creality print, we had to bump that up to 60 to get that to work and not have those. But we still have them on that benchy. But this is great. Oh, this is so much better. So much better. Let's see the lettering on the bottom. How does that turn out? Even the lettering on the bottom looks a little bit better on the Orca sliced one than on the Creality print one, which is kind of wild. Nice. Alrighty. Orca it is. Lauren says, from what I've seen, Orca doesn't have the problems with Mac like CP does. Uncle Jesse chased that for a long time. Yeah, I concur. I guess I'm going to go with Orca Slicer. Orca for the win. Creality print, you're done. Which makes me wonder on this print that I did with Creality print, even though it was a lot better than the previous one, if I do the same print on Orca without even dialing in the filament, I bet you I could get way better results. And I'll probably end up doing that and print that out and see. But I also want to test out that Prusa slicer. We won't do that in this video. But yeah, thanks, Lauren, for letting me know about that. Yeah, I didn't know Uncle Jesse was chasing that for a long time, but with results like this, yeah, I can see why people like Orca. So good. Come to the dark side. But yeah, like I said, the Prusa slicer would be interesting as well. So I'll have to play with that and chat GPT and grok it and see what happens on how I can get the K2 Plus as a profile on Prusa slicer and see what the results are with that, especially with their new upgrades and getting rid of those VFAs that they came up with. That looks really, really good. And so I guess that'll be the next test. You know, we've got the Orca slicer one, which again, non-calibrated filament, just the standard filament profile for PLA was way better than the calibrated Creality print, Creality high filament, hyper PLA filament. Excuse me. So much fun. I like this. This is good stuff. But anyway, yeah, we're going to kind of close this out. I think we've done this to death so far, and if we just hang around any further, it's just going to be me stumbling through Prusa Slicer, trying to get the K2 Plus, get that onto that and doing a test. I don't think we want to hang around for that. But that's what we end up having. Interesting little stuff. The Creality print upgrade, horrible prints on the K2 Plus, and that was with where was it? Which version of that? And the disclaimer is that it was Mac. So there it was. Holy crow. What? No. I think I just put everybody and their grandmother on this thing. There's the helmet. I just got part names. Those were all of the settings that I had. And there was, seriously? Let's get rid of that. There it is. There's the Creality print. But that was the version 6.2.2.3203 was the one that just gave me the awful prints. And it was just horrendous. And if we take a look at that one last shot of that right there, horrible. And that's because Creality is a day late and a dollar short when they update the Mac versions of Creality print. And now that we've proved that with Orca Slicer, I'm down with the OG Orca. So I think we're going to be using that. So now the big battle will be between Prusa Slicer and Orca, and we'll continue that, but at another time. And so we're going to close out this video. We've done enough stuff like that, and I know you don't want it to stop. No. Wait. But we got to go. We're going to cut this video short. We're going to go to the outro, and there it is. Steve, the retired hobby tech guy, thanks for everybody for watching and the advice and, computers and Windows. I think I'm going to have to get one of those unless this Orca and Prusa war comes, to see which battle of those work. I might not have to get a Windows laptop. I might be happy with my Mac if I can get some good results. If you want to contact me, there's the email address. I answer everybody, usually within 1 or 2 days. So if you just want to say hi, or you have some information pertinent to 3D printing or being an American expat here in Korea or overseas or whatever, just want to say hi, there's the email. I always answer. These people over here, not over here, but over here, those people have bought me coffee. There's a link in the description. If you don't want to, that's absolutely cool. I have much respect for them, but the best thing that you could do for me is hit that like button. That would be the best thing. Coffee, I can make my own coffee. I can do that. And any coffee that comes in for me, that goes back into the channel. And I've got some better lights. I've got better production value here. So we're looking and we're upgrading with those donations, along with my hard-earned nickels and dimes that I get for my allowance, into making this a better production channel and more information. So there it is. Thanks everybody for watching. We will see you on the next video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Peace. Good stuff. Orca good.